73 AD. The hills outside Rome echo with a clash of iron and the roar of 30,000 screaming warriors. Spartacus and his rebel army have turned the countryside into a bloodbath. Roman legions march in perfect formation, their red cloaks rippling in the wind. Gladi drawn, shields locked. They're the most disciplined fighting force the world has ever seen. But let's change one thing. Hidden among the ranks of the 10th Legion are 12 soldiers who shouldn't exist for another 2,000 years. A modern Special Forces A-team armed with weapons that could reshape empires and tactics that defy everything Rome knows about war. So what happens when the most advanced military unit on Earth fights alongside history's greatest ancient army? Can cutting-edge technology and 2,000-year-old discipline create the ultimate fighting force? Or will the clash of eras tear both armies apart? First, let's examine exactly what we've just dropped into the heart of the Roman war machine. A Special Forces A-team represents the pinnacle of modern military evolution. 12 operators trained to near superhuman standards in every conceivable form of combat. Each man can run 10 miles in full gear, hit targets at 800 meters in complete darkness, and coordinate complex operations using technology that would look like magic to Roman eyes. They speak multiple languages, understand explosives, and can turn everyday materials into deadly weapons. Their equipment reads like a science fiction novel written by someone who really understands violence. Each operator carries an M4 carbine with SOP-mod package, delivering precise automatic fire at ranges that would make Roman artillery obsolete. Night vision goggles that turn darkness into daylight. Encrypted radios that provide instant communication across impossible distances. Kevlar armor that can stop projectiles moving faster than sound. Combat knives forged from steel, stronger than anything Roman blacksmiths could imagine. And enough medical supplies to save lives that ancient physicians would write off as hopeless. But here's where it gets interesting. These aren't just weapons. They're force multipliers operated by men who've spent years mastering the art of making small numbers defeat large ones. The Special Forces operators don't just fight. They teach, they adapt, and they turn ordinary soldiers into extraordinary warriors. Standing opposite them is the pride of the Roman Empire, the 10th Legion, Caesar's own, veterans who've conquered Gaul and crossed the Rubicon. These aren't conscripts or militia, they're professional killers who've turned warfare into a precise science. Each legionnaire carries a gladius designed for close-quarters butchery, 2 pila that can punch through shields at 100 feet, and a scutum large enough to shelter behind while advancing under arrow fire. More importantly, they fight as a single organism. Roman tactical doctrine has been refined through centuries of conquest. The testudo formation that can advance under withering missile fire. The wedge that can split enemy lines like an axe through wood. The flexible manipular system that adapts to any battlefield condition. These men don't just follow orders. They execute complex maneuvers while under attack, maintaining formation discipline that allows 5,000 Romans to defeat 50,000 barbarians. The Roman approach to war is methodical, systematic, and absolutely ruthless. They don't just win battles, they engineer complete destruction of enemy capability. Siege works that can reduce any fortress, engineering skills that build bridges across rivers in days. A logistical system that keeps armies supplied across thousands of miles. and most crucially, a military culture that produces soldiers who'd rather die than break formation. As dawn breaks over the rebel encampment, both forces prepare for what neither realizes will become the most unique battle in human history. Spartacus has positioned his army on high ground, using terrain to offset Roman advantages. His fighters are desperate, experienced, and have nothing left to lose. They've already humiliated Roman armies twice. They know Roman tactics, Roman weaknesses, and Roman psychology. The 10th Legion deploys in classic formation, 3 lines of heavy infantry with the Special Forces team embedded among the hastati in the front rank. To the Romans, these strange soldiers seem like auxiliary troops with exotic equipment. To the rebels, watching from the hills, they look like just another Roman unit, advancing in predictable formation. Neither side understands they're about to witness the collision of military doctrines separated by 2 millennia. Ancient discipline meets modern lethality. Proven tactics encounter revolutionary technology. And somewhere in the chaos that's about to unfold, we'll discover whether the future can learn from the past, or if 20 centuries of military evolution are about to rewrite the history books. The battle begins at precisely 0800 hours. Spartacus signals his fighters, and 30,000 rebels surge down the hillside like an avalanche of bronze and fury. They're screaming war cries in a raised, spears gleaming, dozen languages, shields. It's the kind of chaotic barbarian charge that's broken Roman lines before. But this time, the Romans have an ace up their sleeve that history never recorded. The Special Forces team leader makes a split-second decision that changes everything. Instead of following standard Roman doctrine, he activates his encrypted radio and coordinates with his operators spread across the legion's front. While Roman centurions bark orders in Latin, American voices crackle through advanced communication systems, sharing real-time intelligence that turns the battlefield into a 3-dimensional chessboard. Contact front, 400 meters and closing fast, comes the first transmission. Estimate 500 fighters in the initial wave, more following. The team's designated marksman, positioned with the Principes in the second line, ranges targets through his scope. At 300 meters, well beyond pylon range, he begins selective fire. Rebel leaders start dropping with precision that defies explanation. 1 second, they're waving swords and rallying their men. The next, they're collapsing with wounds that seem to appear from thin air. But the Special Forces team isn't operating independently. They're integrating with Roman tactics in ways that amplify both forces exponentially. When the rebel charge hits 150 meters, Roman pila fly in perfect volleys, just as they have for centuries. But now, suppressive fire from M4 carbines fills the gaps between javelin throws. Rebels who dodge Roman projectiles run straight into precision rifle fire. Those who survive the bullets get skewered by iron-tipped pila. The psychological effect is devastating. Spartacus's veterans have faced Roman legions before. They know how Romans fight, how Romans think, how Romans die. But they've never encountered enemies who can kill accurately at impossible ranges while maintaining perfect formation discipline. Fighters who've survived a dozen battles suddenly find themselves hesitating, confused by tactics that shouldn't exist. As the charge closes to 50 meters, the Special Forces team activates their most devastating capability. Not their weapons, but their training. Each operator has spent years learning how to turn conventional forces into unconventional threats. They start shouting commands in Latin they learned during the mission preparation, directing Roman soldiers with tactical knowledge that won't be developed for another 2,000 years. Testudo formation, but advance at double time, one operator calls out, his American accent barely noticeable through the combat noise. Roman legionnaires, trained to adapt and follow competent leadership, instantly respond. The legendary tortoise formation begins moving faster than rebels expect, covered by accurate rifle fire that eliminates anyone trying to flank the advancing shield wall. The rebel charge crumbles against this hybrid of ancient discipline and modern precision. Spartacus himself, wounded by rifle fire and surrounded by the wreckage of his army, finally understands he's facing something beyond Roman capabilities. The Special Forces team has done what they do best. They've taken an already lethal fighting force and transformed it into something unstoppable. 2 millennia of military evolution compressed into one impossible battle. The future and the past united in perfect, terrifying harmony. When the dust settles, history itself has been rewritten by 12 men who were never supposed to exist.